From mailbox fines to Revolt, my fight against the HOA, it all started with a mailbox. A dented, slightly rusted mailbox that had stood at the edge of my driveway for the better part of a decade. It wasn't pretty, sure, but it did its job. I never imagined it would be the first shot fired in a neighborhood war. The letter arrived on a Wednesday, sealed in an envelope with the Oakcrest Pines HOA logo stamped across the front. I assumed it was another newsletter about the community barbecue or pool rules. Instead, I found a formal violation notice. Your mailbox, it read, fails to comply with current community aesthetic standards and must be replaced within 7 days. A $150 fine has been issued. I stared at it, confused. I hadn't heard about any new standards. And why now? I'd lived in Oakcrest for 9 years without a single issue. At first, I did what most people do. I paid the fine and bought a new mailbox. It wasn't worth the headache. But a few weeks later, my neighbor Maria stopped me as I pulled into the driveway. She was holding the same letter. So was Tom across the street. And the Hendersons. Identical fines, identical wording. That's when the pattern emerged. Over the course of 3 months, the HOA issued over 70 violations for mailbox infractions, citing chipped paint, tilt angle, or the wrong shade of black. It became a running joke until people realized the fines were stacking up and the board wasn't joking. Curious, I started asking questions. I requested a copy of the meeting minutes where the new standards were approved. I was told they were unavailable. I asked to speak at the next HOA board meeting. My request was denied. Apparently, the public comment portion had been removed due to time constraints. That's when I started digging. I filed a formal request for the HOA's financial disclosures. According to state law, they had to comply. It took multiple emails, 2 certified letters, and a phone call to a local attorney, but eventually I got a copy. That's when I saw it. Over $22,000 had been paid to a vendor called Eagle Design and Enforcement LLC, a business I'd never heard of. A little digging uncovered that Eagle was run by the HOA president's nephew, and they had recently been contracted to update and standardize mailbox designs for the entire community. In other words, we were being fined to justify a shady family business deal. I couldn't let it go. I launched a Facebook group called Oakcrest Against Corruption. At first, it was just me, Maria, and Tom. But word spread fast. People started posting their violations, mailbox photos, gate color warnings, even non-compliant flower beds. One resident, Mrs. Lopez, had been fined $200 because her garden gnome was not in harmony with the neighborhood theme. I contacted a local journalist who covered community disputes. She loved the story. Within days, a short article ran with the headline, "Mailbox Fines or Money Grab, HOA Faces Backlash." That was the spark. At the next board meeting, held behind closed doors, we staged a protest. Dozens of residents stood outside the clubhouse with signs that read, "This is our neighborhood, and we want transparency." Someone even brought a giant cardboard mailbox, spray-painted red with fraud written across the front. The board tried to play tough. They issued more fines. They claimed the Facebook group was inciting unrest. But then came the turning point. A whistleblower, an assistant to the treasurer, leaked internal emails showing that not only was the president's nephew profiting off the mailbox standards, but the board had also approved inflated contracts for landscaping, maintenance, and community consultation with companies linked to their own relatives. The residents were furious. We organized a recall petition. According to the bylaws, we needed signatures from 60% of the homeowners. We got 72%. The recall vote was held on a rainy Saturday morning, and despite the weather, the turnout was massive. One by one, the votes were counted in the community center. The board was ousted. In the months that followed, we elected a new board made up of residents who had nothing to gain, just a desire for fairness and accountability. We instituted term limits, public meetings were restored, all contracts were reviewed. The mailbox rules? Repealed. Today, when I walk past that same spot by the curb, I see a mailbox that's dented again, thanks to a kid learning to drive, but it stands for something. This wasn't just about mailboxes. It was about people being pushed too far, about the quiet power of community, about what happens when the people who are supposed to protect a neighborhood forget that they serve it, not rule it. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can fine a person, but you can't silence a neighborhood when it finally decides to speak up.